All right, let's go through how to do hip thrusts to make sure you have the right amount of glute activation. So one term that I want to define before we get started is hip extension. So when you're down in your hip thrust, what a hip extension is when your hips are bent with an angle, you are extending them, pushing your hips forward and squeezing at your glutes. So when I say fully extend your hips, what I mean is taking them from a position like this and pushing them forward. So getting started, we will do one set of body weight hip thrusts just to kind of get going with the mind to muscle connection. Then we'll do a set with a dumbbell, and then we'll move on to a preloaded barbell. So starting with the setup for our body weight hip thrusts, what you're going to do is sit right in front of the bench, and then I'm going to use my elbows to prop myself up. I will shove my upper back against the bench, and then I take my elbows away. And then my feet are right underneath my knees, or basically just when I'm up at the top of my hip thrust, there's a 90-degree angle, and you can play around with foot position, bringing your feet a little forward or a little bit backwards to see which helps you feel the best squeeze in your glutes. So up in this position, what you're going to do is just have your hips down, and then we're going to fully extend the hips by bringing them up, squeezing the glutes for about 5 seconds at the top, squeeze, 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 and then come back down. And one cue that I like is when you're squeezing your glutes at the top, you're extending, try to think about doing a back flip. So you're pushing up, trying to do a back flip, and that just helps to really fully extend at the glutes. Then we'll come back down. Just do about 5 reps of squeezing your glutes for 5 seconds at the top, and then come back down. All right, grabbing a dumbbell next, we're going to move into activation with something that's a little bit lighter than what you would normally use. And so what we're going to do is get into the position of the hip thrust, like we did for the body weight hip thrust. Just like that. And then I'm just going to bring the dumbbell over onto my hips, and I'm gently resting either big part of this dumbbell just on my hip bones. I'm just making sure that my feet are in the right position, and then bringing my hips down and fully extending at the top, squeezing, trying to push myself up into a back flip for about 5 seconds, and then back down. Go ahead and do about 5 reps of this, and then we'll just bring this dumbbell down nice and safely, then bring ourselves down. I've got my preloaded barbell here. Notice that this one has some curves. It's called an easy bar, and these curves are really good for doing things like bicep curls because it gives you a great place to hold on to. This is fine for doing hip thrusts, but if you have a preloaded barbell that's just straight up and down without all these curves, that would be just a little bit easier to use. So we're going to set up for hip thrusts using this. Go ahead and get into the position. Just shoving the upper back, again, sort of like right under your shoulder blades against the bench. So if you'd like to, or if you have one, what you can do is fold up a yoga mat into quarters and place that on your hips, or you can use a barbell pad around this. My gym doesn't have those, so I'm not going to demonstrate with that, but what we're going to do is just to bring this onto our hips, pull it really close so it's right next to your hips, and then lay it over, and here it is. And so I like to just place my hands right on the bar. I'm going to fully extend my hips, squeezing for about 5 seconds, and then come back down, fully extend my hips. Again, just trying to do sort of like a back flip, squeeze, 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 and then back down. And then to get the bar off, all I'm gonna do is sort of tilt my hips and roll it up, off, and then sit myself down.